Economic growth transforms societies from dire poverty to dynamic prosperity. It creates the conditions for better health and education, the arts, and social infrastructure. Yet, for all its practical and human benefits, economic growth is also a matter of profound moral significance. In 1000 AD, the world's average annual income, in dollars comparable to ours, was $690. 500 years later, that figure had only grown to $890, and by 1820, it was still a mere $1,050. That's a glacial growth rate of 0.05% per year. But in the early 1800s, growth began to accelerate sharply. Average income in the U.S. went from $1,980 in 1820 to $43,200 in 2000. And along with this stupendous growth came vast improvements in physical well-being. Yet today, as explained in Economic Growth, the moral value of economic growth has come under withering attack. Isn't growth to blame for environmental damage, income inequality, and rampant consumerism? How should we address these concerns? Prior to the rise of capitalism, the wealth of nations was conceived as their stock of precious metals, one country gained by taking from others through trade or conquest. Adam Smith argued that a nation's wealth is its entire stock of valuable goods, especially its people who work together on a common enterprise. He saw that the most efficient way to increase wealth and productivity was a division of labor. 4 people, if each one tried to build a pen separately, might only produce 1 pen each per day. If they specialized and collaborated, however, they could produce far more, resulting in more wealth for everyone. Smith saw the same benefits for companies and even nations that specialize, and showed how trade could be a positive for all partners. As modern economies evolved, savings, investments in physical capital and human capital, and new ideas and technologies emerged as major drivers of economic growth. And undergirding it all are market-friendly laws, policies, social institutions, and cultural attitudes. But what about income inequality? Over the past 50 years, on average, when a nation's income grows, the income of the nation's poor grows at the same rate. Even where income rises more quickly for the rich, as in the U.S., the condition of the poor typically improves. If a country's income doubles and the poor's percentage of the national income drops from 6% to 5%, their absolute wealth has still grown considerably. From 1979 to 2007, adjusting for household size, real income has grown 26% for the lowest quintile in the U.S. and 37% for middle-income households. Economic growth sets changes in motion that increase opportunities for all groups in society. What about environmental damage? Studies show that poor nations are often willing to tolerate environmental damage in the interest of growth. As nations continue to grow, however, they possess the resources to move to cleaner fuels and to invest in infrastructure that improves air and water quality. In other words, growth first causes pollution, but then provides the means to reduce pollution as societies balance interests of environmental quality and ongoing growth. Finally, moral critics suggest that economic growth causes greed and materialism. But these critics tend to blame moral problems on free markets rather than human nature and an unhealthy culture. In fact, free markets depend on and encourage moral goods like social trust, honesty, compassion, and responsibility. Economic growth benefits all members of society, rich and poor, but sustaining it requires wise choices and a healthy culture. Today, we see how growth could benefit the poor in transformative ways, provide the means to solve real environmental problems, and dramatically improve education, healthcare, and technology. Such growth is a moral imperative because it helps so many, so much.